Hi, my name is Rachel, and this is Jess, spinner of the whole dancer, and I'm so excited to come to you today from our studio for my guys to introduce you to Jess, because what I think what she does, I think, is so important. We have a similar demographic in terms of the people that we serve. Typically, dancers who are transitioning and going the pre-pro route, or transitioning to getting a company contract, or even some professionals who have company contracts and are trying to work on their careers. So would you talk a little bit about what you do?
Of course, yeah. So at The Whole Dancer, I work in the capacity of health coach, which is, that's kind of the direction that I went, because it is a more holistic approach to dancers' mindset, to working in how we approach food and how we show up in the studio. So, so often I think that dancers will have a single-minded focus in terms of, like, I'm working on technique, that's all I have to work on, that's my number one thing, and we forget to take care of our mind and our body in, like, the best way possible. And it makes such a difference in how you're going to show up in the studio, how you will show up for photo shoots, how you're going to show up for auditions.
But also how the mindset works with what you're doing with food.
Completely.
And how you see your body, and how, like, the mind-body connection is just so huge. It's so important.
Yeah.
So thank you so much from everybody for what you do, because I think we need so many more of you out there. I talk about this all the time. It's a topic that comes up in our studio, especially when it comes to audition photos, because and again, that's why we're doing this here in September, because 'tis the season for everybody to start gearing up and getting ready. But in our photo shoots for auditions, we're specifically, they're just so important. This is your calling card. This is how the company, you can't even get into the auditions without submitting great materials now, right? It's crazy how it's all shifted in the last 6 years.
It's amazing, yeah.
But it really, what makes one photo stand out over the 10,000 others that they're looking at is really confidence and energy and personality and all the extra bits that we need to put into them. So the conversations that Jess has with dancers comes up in my studio all the time, and I refer people to her all the time, because it's not just about the weight and what your body looks like, but it's really the whole thing. It's the whole package. So again, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm so excited to bring more of these topics to your audience and the dancers that you're working with, so that we can kind of make sure that more dancers are hearing this message. It's great when they work with you one-on-one, obviously, because they are getting that conversation at least started. And I think that so often we kind of leave it there, and it's important to continue it, both, in this forum, and then, like, if you do work with someone one-on-one, to have that support and work on the confidence,
so
work
key.
on the
Let's
head.
talk about support in a little bit,
absolutely.
But, like, so important.
Yeah.
It's such a hard journey, this. It's really one of the hardest industries. Lots of crazy.
Yes.
And lots of
quite
wonderful.
a struggle for me, so.
And it was a struggle for me too.
Yeah.
It was a serious struggle for me too.
Yeah.
So, can you talk a little bit about how you start working with dancers and what different pathways they might take?
Sure. So a lot of times when a dancer seeks me out, it is like, I am lacking confidence in auditions. I don't have the confidence to do these things. Or a lot of times it's very specifically, I think I need to change the way that I'm eating or the way that I am approaching my body. To be honest, it's more often I think I have to change the way that I'm eating, because we, I think, naturally look for the more tangible issue, like, oh, it's the food. Like, this is my problem. I'm not making the right food choices.
Would you consider that like the quick fix? Like, if people are looking for the quick fix?
Yeah, they just, I think it's sort of, a little more challenging to look at yourself and say, really, this is an issue with how I am seeing myself in the mirror, or how I am taking corrections so personally, like, I'm bad or I'm wrong, or, making it mean something huge. And so I think that we go to the food because it's the quick fix. We think that, if I start eating more salads, that's going to be the answer. And so when dancers come to me with that, as they say, this is, I think, my issue, usually in our first conversation, it's like, well, what's coming up when you're in the studio? How do you feel about what you see in the mirror? What are you thinking when you get a correction personally, or when a correction is given as a whole to the entire room, because a lot of times I would say 99% of the time, it truly stems from that.
Really?
Yeah.
99% of the time?
Yeah. Food
Wow.
is so rarely, food alone, I will say, is so rarely the issue. We definitely have to talk about what's going on your plate and how you're relating to food, but
Sure.
So often it's quite a bit deeper, I would say, than that. Yeah.
99%.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I expected that number to be high, but I didn't expect it to be that high.
It really is, it's rare. It's so rare that food is the primary issue.
And I think that ties in also beautifully with one of the things that I'm, when we're coaching dancers through their marketing materials and their audition processes, a common thing that comes up for us is in their questionnaires, which are pretty in depth, they are always asking, what are artistic directors looking for? What kinds of people, is it height? Is it this? Is it that? Do they look for turners? Do they look for jumpers? In the last 2-3 years of me working with companies on their marketing material, I've been digging for this information from the artistic directors. And it plays in with what you said as well, because it's so often the first thing that they tell me is, listen, when they walk into the audition room, I'm looking for somebody who grabs me. And then they watch those people. So it's never physicality first, technique first. It's always who are the people that are coming into the room, who are the artists, what do they have to say, what their personality looks like, how do they shine or not shine. And so if they're having issues in the studio with how they're relating to corrections, how they're relating to the environment, we're coming at it from a slightly different perspective, but it's the same perspective. It's that 1 inch of real estate up in the head, right?
Yeah.
That's so important. So
it's
important.
Huge. It's key, really.
Yeah.
It really is an essential piece.
Yeah.
And I think too, like you said, with just walking into the room, we had been talking before a little bit about body language and how you're actually feeling inside comes into that.
It's huge.
The way that you're going to present yourself in those first moments coming into the room, it's going to play a huge role. So
yeah, body language is something that we talk about extensively, not just from the experiment that you're referencing. Just real quick, the experiment that we're referencing is one that I did a couple of years ago with 6 dancers, and I took them from different genres of dance as well as different levels of dance, from professional to student. And I literally just asked them to, for 2 weeks, shift their body weight over the balls of their feet and stand with their hands open. While they're waiting for exercises in the beginning of class, while they're in between bits. And every single person came back to me with, and of course this is completely non-scientific, right? I had no focus groups, I had no control groups, any of that kind of stuff, right? But every single one came back to me with, I had a better class, I got more corrections, I got better roles, the interaction was better, I can turn better, right? Yeah. I mean, just crazy. The mind-body connection that we as dancers don't often think about accessing, but is so important.
Completely.
Yeah, so important. So when somebody's reaching out to you, we're talking, of course you're talking of the whole dancer. Does your work often encompass like long-term support as well as coaching on nutrition and what times to eat and what to eat, and diving right into like all the little aspects? Are there services that people can work with you on different levels? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I would say the most popular program that I work with dancers through is the Dancer's Best Body program. And I created that in order to sort of have different levels of commitment and enrollment so that people can go through it on their own, or they can go through it with the one-on-one support that many dancers do need. And it really takes them through a step-by-step process of breaking down the mindset piece around their body. Because like I said, that really is
so key.
The biggest piece for so many. But then also like laying a foundation of nutrition information so that they have that to go back to. And my big thing with food is experimentation, because the truth and the facts of nutrition science is that there's not enough studies and they're not funded. And so the information that we have is really limited. So you have to be investigating what's working for you based on how you feel and how you're showing up in the studio and what your energy is like, and even like the emotional components of food that we don't always think about. But
please, can we talk about that just for a quick second? I think this is so important.
Questions.
Oh, we've got questions and we've got notes,
awesome.
but hold on, I'm coming back because I think this is so important, the emotional aspects of food. You guys might be thinking about my mentioning this based on, you're having a bad day and you eat a tub of ice cream. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, I'm not sure how you're speaking to this with your clients, but for me, I absolutely notice on days when I'm eating, for example, 50% vegetables, 20% grain, and then little bits of other things, that I just feel good and my vibrational energy is higher and I'm positive and I am able to work a longer day. If you guys know me, you know I work a lot. I work 7 days a week, crazy hours, it's crazy. And it's the only thing that gets me through. The days when there's sugar that slips into there, here comes the dark clouds, here comes the depression, here comes, and and I can absolutely track it. Like 100%, I'm highly aware of what goes in, absolutely directly reflects my mood.
Right.
And then everything else, and then my staff, and then you guys, and that kind of thing. Right? Like that.
And so often, we just are a little unaware of that connection.
Right.
Like people, dancers, people in general, we disconnect from what we put into our bodies, which is obviously like, that's one of the few constants in each and every day, hopefully, is that you're putting food into your body. And we oftentimes disconnect from how it's making us feel emotionally, physically, etc. And like you said, it is two-pronged, because there is the emotional side of food that I do work with dancers on, where it can turn into a binge eating situation or using food to cope. But just the way the foods that you're choosing are impacting your emotions is definitely another thing that we look at, because I think you have to make the connection in order to find what's going to work best for you, which is why it's the experimentation process.
Right.
And noticing those things.
Right. And then can I take it a step further? Because when I was dancing, I didn't actually pay attention to most of these things, unfortunately.
Yeah, same. I was right there with you.
And if I could just, guys, just pick our brains. If you get years of experience here, don't make our mistakes, right? But I'm wondering if you could even take that a step further, like sports athletes do. And, I have a bunch of runners in my studio. And when they're getting prepped for a marathon, they change a little bit the way they eat. They do a little bit of this and do a little bit of that. Do you work with people on their audition processes like that? Like if they're leading up to a big gala or a series of auditions, or they're traveling? Yeah,
I mean, so there's all the work that you want to be doing as far in advance as you can to kind of like create consistency in the way that you're eating, because we don't want to get into, which is again so common and something that I fell into a lot, was like yo-yo patterns. I'm going to try this crash diet and I'm going to try this other one, and this is popular now. Ketogenics is popular now. It's like all the things that we hear about on the news and see on the Today Show, like all that stuff comes up, and it's an easy trap to fall into. So you really want to start as early as you possibly can. But of course, if you have pressing deadlines, you can still make adjustments that are going to help. And so, I'll work with dancers on, pre-performance stuff, because we all know what happens in those dressing rooms with the sugar and the candy, and it's quick energy, right? So it's like the best way to go. Unfortunately not. And the more that you can say, okay, I'm going to come prepared and I'm going to bring the right snacks with me that I have already figured out work for my body, the better off you're going to be in both auditions, performances, all of those areas.
Awesome. And I just have one more question about that. And we have a lot of questions, and they're telling us that we should be announcing winners and all that kind of thing. But just while we're on this topic, how does one figure out what are the best snacks for them? If you had 2 or 3 tips on figuring out how you coach people into doing that.
So through that whole experimentation process really is how we're going to do it. So I do find that some people do benefit from a higher fat snack before, I like a mix of fat and protein, so something like nuts. And if you find that that works for you and it doesn't weigh you down and make you feel heavy, then that can work. And again, it's going to be the process of like trying that every day for a week and noticing how you feel, and then switching to something different, like just having a banana and seeing how that makes you feel. And I like people to write things down, like I said, because we can forget and be like, oh, I think I felt good in that rehearsal, or, you know, that day.
Yeah.
And then, of course, for female dancers, you have to take into hormonal components and fluctuations throughout a month and how your body is going to feel different some weeks versus others based on where you are in your cycles. It's just, you know, facts.
Yeah.
So taking all of those things into account and making sure that you're finding those snacks that are working, and then cutting out the ones that aren't. So often we go to more processed bars and things like that.
Yeah.
Luckily, there are better options that you can look at, and you can find the ones that work for you. But still, it's like, do I need an entire bar before rehearsal? Is half a bar going to be best, and then maybe I have the other half halfway through, or like at my 15-minute break, whatever it is. So yeah, it's, again, like I said, it really is that experimentation and taking notes on it all and figuring out what works, and then being consistent.
Yeah, and I think
Prepared.
Yeah, I'm going to stress the taking notes on these things, guys, because it doesn't do you any good to get to the end of the week and go, well, I think I felt like this on Tuesday.
Right.
Did I feel like that on Wednesday? I just had a crappy day on Thursday. Friday was awesome. That's not going to tell you the information that you need. We've been finding that with our SMP program, with the Social Media Power Program, which is really, it's totally a side note, and we're not talking about that today. But it's a program that's about teaching dancers to be entrepreneurial and take on their own marketing and take the control of their career into play. And one of the things when I have them literally with tracking sheets, and they're required to fill out the tracking sheets and submit them so that we can see what's going on. And it has you really be cognizant of how much time you're spending and where you're spending it on social media. And like the writing part is really important, guys. So if you're going to experiment with food like this the next couple of weeks, definitely do the log. It's important.
Yeah, and it is too, not just the physical feelings, but the emotional piece as well. Like, how were you feeling emotionally before you ate that and after you ate that? Did it have an impact on, you know, how you were taking things in rehearsal? The brain fog piece, like how clear-headed did you feel?
The brain fog.
Yeah. You know, like some snacks and foods do just leave us feeling kind of groggy and not awesome. And, you know, then, you know, you address things like caffeine intake. It's there's so many things, right?
It's different for everyone,
and it is different
like
for
drastically.
everyone.
Like if you were to be able to tell everybody right now anything with giant amounts of sugar, you're going to have brain fog. Would you have like one or two things like that?
I mean, yeah, I would say for the majority of people, the sugar tends to be an issue. And of course, I'm not talking healthy sugars from fruits. I'm pro fruit, so I think that it is the matter of figuring out, oh, I can get this energy from fruit, and I don't have to eat a bunch of chocolate as my pre-class snacks and things like that.
Right. So, awesome.
Yeah.
Shall we get to some questions?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions.
There's a lot of
like
questions.
We should get to some questions.
Okay, awesome. There's questions for me and there's questions for you.
Okay.
And because I'm so pro what you're doing, I'd rather, like, we can change and intersperse them, but I'd rather focus on one of those. So, do you want to start? Shall I? You've got some of your questions. Do you want me to give you some? Yeah, go ahead.
So one of the first questions, what are some good guidelines for getting yourself into shape as quickly as possible, but without injuring yourself or burning out? And I have to say, you know, we talked about this a little bit, touched on it. As much as you can give yourself time, I know I totally get the thought, I have to do this as quickly as possible. But it takes time. If you want a sustainable change, if you want a long-term career, like I like to work with dancers on career-long changes.
So do we.
Things that are gonna work and serve you for your whole career. And that can shift over time.
It does, but I also want to bring up a point on that. We talk about ROI in here all the time, you guys, return on investment. Your return on investment in anything, whether it be the stock market, whether it be in your training, whether it be in your marketing, which is where it comes into play in our business, or your work on your mind-body connection, it's long-term, you guys. So the return on investment is much, much greater going the distance. So sure, there's things we can do to speed things up, but the return is so much greater when you come at it from a long-term perspective.
Yeah, and I would say too, the biggest thing I would suggest focusing on when you are trying to speed things along is, like we said, make sure your head is right. If you are not approaching it from a standpoint of, I want to optimize my dancing, I want to support myself in a healthy way, but instead you're approaching it from, a body hate standpoint, or you're telling yourself, I'm terrible, I'm fat, I'm this, I'm that, that's going to slow it down like crazy. It's going to make it be an up and down process. So I would say number one is make sure your head is right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. The second one that they're asking, can you talk to healthy mind habits to help move forward and improve technique and artistry? I think we already kind of did that.
Yeah.
I feel like I've plateaued in the last year and want to be able to move forward this season. Also, any tips for helping making meal planning easier? Let's talk about meal planning in a second.
Sure.
Plateauing. Can you speak to plateauing?
Yeah, I think that a lot of times what happens in a feeling of a plateau is that it's possible that your body is where it is most comfortable, which, is a kind of like a harsh reality and something you really have to consider, because if you're, and this doesn't mean it's impossible to make further progress, but if you're in a place where this is where your body is supposed to be in a healthy way, you have to kind of decide and potentially alter what your goals are and expectations are. Mm-hmm. Because if you're fighting with your body to try to be thinner or to be this or that, it's going to just create frustration and make you upset and take you down mentally. And so I think working on the self-acceptance piece and making sure that you are saying, okay, like maybe this is where my body is most comfortable, and then working with someone and not going it alone to try to take next steps and break through a plateau.
I think that's really important.
Yeah, because we do get into quick fixes when we're at a plateau. We say, and I think that a lot of times the dancer mind specifically can be somewhat extreme. And we say to ourselves, and we also sometimes get messages from our instructors or artistic directors that are not super healthy advice in terms of food goes. So make sure that you're getting advice from someone who works in this area. And, it doesn't have to be me, but I do work in this area. I'm just going to segue that one real quick. I know we've got a lot of questions to get to, guys, but I think you bring up so many good points. And sometimes we get instructions from our teachers. Guys, I'm going to call a spade. You know me, I'm blunt, right? I hear crazy stuff coming from dancers, crazy stuff. All the time.
But, and not just in the food choices, but in the things that people that perhaps have authority are saying, just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
It's 2019, come on.
I know.
Right? So personally, one of the things that I like to speak with the students about is like, all right, what's the hidden message behind what they're saying?
Right.
If they're coming at it from a very harsh way of saying it, what do we actually need to listen to versus what's just like garbage in 2019 versus, okay, there's something here, but I don't have the skills to talk. You need to go talk to Jess, kind of thing. Or you need to talk to a professional, or God forbid, you need to move schools because the crazy stuff is not gonna stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I shouldn't say it, but I do oftentimes say, like, maybe it's not the place for you if these are the messages that you're consistently getting. Or I tend to suggest, if you can tune it out and realize, like you said, think about who it's coming from, what the kind of backstory could be. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's like the old school teachers who
really do love you, but they have a harsh way of projecting it.
Right.
But I do think that everybody learns something that we talk about in here all the time, because I'm conscious of it when I'm correcting dancers, when I'm working with them, and I have to, fine tune them. That not everybody learns in the same way. We have people that learn visually. We have people that learn kinesthetically. That basically means hands-on. And people that learn by listening, by auditory. And if you happen to be, in a school where they're all auditory and you're kinesthetic, and the teacher gets frustrated with you, and then they just start going after you, just have to possibly realize that the teaching style doesn't match your learning style.
Yeah.
And that's where the conversation starts from.
Big.
But huge. It's huge. And when the dancers are like, Wow. Oh, my teacher's been trying to tell me how to do that well, I just tried 3 different ways of getting it into you, and we found the one that works.
Yeah.
Right? So, but it is one of those ones exactly where you're like, you got to come from what are they looking for? What are they, and then is it a healthy environment? I think that's really,
absolutely,
really important.
And that goes for schools and professional. Which can be even harder, I understand, because none of us want to leave a job that we have.
That we fought so hard to get. Oh my gosh. Right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you hear it all. We hear it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. I'm just going to go down the list here.
Sure.
Somebody's asking, I'm sorry, I don't have who this is. Audition video question. How far should the video be filmed, and what would be the best thing to wear to be elegant but still professional looking, not like a student? Okay. You need, just real quick, because again, we're talking about hold answers here. For videos, you need enough space to be able to back up to try really hard not to distort the lens. So if your studio is really narrow and wide, it's not the best choice of studios to film in. So fine-tuning your variations for video is something that needs to be done. It's again that 3 dimensions to 2 dimensions thing, because we perceive in person, visually we have a perception of what's in front of us we see in 3D that we actually don't see in 3D. That's our mind that's doing that. But you don't when you're seeing things flat on a screen. So you need enough space to be able to adjust. I don't have necessarily like dimensions that would be best, but a short and flat room, you're not going to want to use, you guys. You're going to need to go out and source another location to rent to shoot in for sure. I would say a good distance is at least like 30 feet back, from like wall to wall. 30 feet is like minimum, right? Yeah, really, really minimum for that. And then what to wear. So I have a leotard guide somewhere floating around that I created a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I think it's on our blog, but you can email us or text us for the leotard guide. Making sure the leotards that you're wearing is so key, because everybody's body shape is so different. You don't want anything fancy. You want something very simple. They want to see your artistic ability. They want to see your lines and what you can do. So avoid crisscrosses, avoid like crazy shapes and patterns. And I don't do florals either for videos. I think skirts are fine. I think if your variation warrants a tutu and you feel comfortable and able to perform in a tutu, I think a practice tutu is okay. I wouldn't do performance tutu for that. I think if you feel really elegant in a slightly longer skirt, that's fine too.
These days for sure.
Yeah, but you really want to make sure that they can see your legs. I also have a quick note. Mesh tights shoot better always than any type of stretch and hold. That's a thing. It's an actual thing. The elastin in tights reflects light much like a mirror, and it just makes your legs look tubular ugly. So mesh tights, guys, mesh tights. So Gainer's got good mesh tights. American Movement, I love their tights. Oddly, body wrappers. I don't say oddly because nobody really in my world wears a lot of body wrappers, but their mesh tights are amazing. I don't know how comfortable they are, but they're amazing.
I always default back to you when I get questions on the leotard to wear for the audition or the video. So
everybody's body shape is so different.
And you have to wear too, like something that makes you feel good, right? Like if you don't feel good in it, you're not gonna. We know that just from taking class, I think, right? When you take class in a leotard,
there's a reason why we have our favorite leotards.
Yes, exactly.
Huge Mine was a Morello 201 with a pinch and a 3/4 sleeve.
Love it. Right? Classic.
Yeah, because I'm wider in the hips than the shoulder girdle, so I needed a little bit more width.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, body goals in the context of photo shoots. Okay, here we go. I'm sure many of us see ourselves in the mirror and hope that we will look better on camera tomorrow than in the mirror today. Okay, no. Okay, again, you guys know I'm pretty blunt, so I will call a spade a spade. Is it often, not always, but it's like 60 to 70% of the time, dancers look a little bigger. People look bigger on screens than they do in person. And that one more time has to come back to the thing. It's like a neuroscience thing. I apologize, I'm not a neuroscience, but I've read a lot. Where the perception, how we perceive, and that again doesn't happen in the lenses of our eyes, it happens in our head. We perceive depth, right? In video and photos, we get that depth by adding lighting. and space and a bunch of other tricks and tools and different lenses and blah, 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 blah. But the challenge really is not even in the tricks and tools, but in literally the fact that when you're looking at yourself flat on a screen, your brain doesn't perceive the depth. I have this conversation with dancers literally every day, every day. And they look and they go, oh my God, my thigh. And I'm like, yes, but what you have to see is the way we see, you can't, I don't know if you can see, but I'm pointing to my thigh. You literally see often, depending on the pose or the movement, like 3/4 of a thigh, and it looks flat on a screen. So now I shave that down with particular lighting patterns so that you can see that it's one side or the other, but no dancer, very few dancers can actually see that. They just see the flat thigh. So it's a mind game. It's seriously a mind game, and we work to get you to like around that and through that, which usually people get by the end, because you have to change how you look at yourself on a screen. It's like a completely different thing to look at yourself. It's a completely different thing to dance for screen than it is on stage and in the studio. Like it's totally different. It's a skill that every dancer needs to learn. That's why we've got videos on our website to teach you guys how to do it, and we spend a lot of time in here helping you guys do it for your particular bodies. But there's nothing short of a mind game, and you need to just understand that and rework how you think of yourself on screens. And usually after, by the end of a shoot, dancers are like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But it takes time.
I think that anyone who has looked at Rachel's feed, clearly it's your own perception of yourself a lot of times.
Yes.
I think all the dancers that you shoot look amazing. So I think that it really is like, when you look at yourself, it's such a more critical eye necessarily, than when you look at maybe your friend. Yeah.
And critical in different ways, right? Like sometimes in the first shot that we always do, it's like it's called the Susie test, and everybody goes through it. And I have to teach you like 6 different things about shooting within this test. And one of the ones that I say is, I need you to stop looking at the whole until we get the whole shot. The whole is not important in the beginning. We have to look at the bits and pieces of you and train your brain to look at yourself differently. Because if you just looked at the whole, you just go, oh my God, right? But if you go, okay, well, but my feet look good at that angle, and at this angle, my knees look good, and at this angle, my hips look good. So what if we found an angle where it was all 3 together? Rather than having our brain freak out, we break it down into pieces. And that's
awesome.
Yeah, it's super helpful.
Yeah.
It's super helpful. I should do a video and show you guys what that looks like. But I think the next thing that I want you to speak to, she asks, how does a dancer prepare her physique for a photo shoot, given that you shouldn't crash diet or for casting in a role?
Right. So I would say we want the goal to be that you're going to look in a photo shoot how you feel good and confident looking every single day. So it doesn't become okay, I've got this photo shoot scheduled for November 15th, and now it's September, so I have how many weeks to do X, Y, and Z and change all of these things.
And you really should. I'm just going to one more time, because the tendency for people now, you've got all these apps on your phone, and there's a wide tendency for people to liquefy themselves. Guys, you really shouldn't be doing this. So for many reasons, and I won't go into them all today, but I'm hearing from artistic directors that they're very frustrated that often the dancers aren't coming in looking like what they look like in their photos.
Right.
So listen, we make you look we pull out all the stops to get you to look really good, but changing your body shape is not something that you want to do. I can change a lot in a photo just by correcting and adjusting the perspective from 3 dimensions to 2 dimensions. That's a huge. I can coach you into energy lines. I can coach you into all kinds of things we can do, because we're all teachers in here. But when they see a photo and they're expecting you to be 20 pounds thinner than you are, and then you walk in, you just get written off. Right. Immediately you get written off. It's not a wise thing to do. And I think I'm hearing that also as we're promoting more and more dancers to get paid photo shoots and ambassadorships and influencing gigs. I'm hearing it also from I teach photographers also to shoot dance. And what you look like on your Instagram feed, if you don't walk in the door looking like that,
Not good.
It's like false advertising,
It is.
right? Like not so good. So you really, again, it comes back to that long-term ROI.
Yeah. Right? So you have to, just like Rachel said, you don't want to starve yourself pre-photo shoot to lose 10 pounds that are going to come back a week later, because that happens when we crash diet. You know, like we'll be down and we feel great and you have no energy because you've crash dieted and it can't be maintained. So you binge and it goes the opposite direction and you gain weight and then you show up at the audition and you look nothing like your photo. And that's the end of that. Yep. So, you know, a photo, you want it to be something that you're going to be able to use because that's how your body is at its best. And you've gotten to that place sustainably. You can use that photo for the year and then maybe get new ones,
planning.
update.
I think longer term planning is what we would emphasize here. And also I have to tell you that, we always know when the dancers are not eating, when they come in to shoot, because they can't give us anything.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that technically. I mean that like they come in a bubble of like haze.
Yeah.
And there's no energy. Like it's really hard. I have to push a lot of energy into them to pull energy back. Like and I feel bad because sometimes it's like, well, I'm pushing myself into you to get you to come back. So we can always tell.
Yeah, I bet. I believe it.
And it's a harder shoot for you guys under those circumstances, especially when the shoot's so important. Like you can't even get into auditions now without good materials.
Right.
So when it's that important, long-term planning is way, it's long-term planning. Really. Okay, great. Is there really even possible? Oh, this one I think is really important. Can you speak to this?
Of course. Yeah, so this question is it really even possible to lose weight once the season has started? And I'm going to just give a little more of what this question had because I think it's not an uncommon thought. But she says, while my technique and overall strength seem to generally increase once my company has started, I find it extra hard to put in extra cardio to lose fat because I'm so tired at the end of dancing. So, I'm going to reiterate just quickly because we've talked about it a bunch, but the mind has to be in the right place. So if you go back into your season and your company and you say, okay, it's month 1, I don't feel like I'm at my best, I need to lose 20 pounds this month, it's not going to go well. So first, adjust your goals and expectations and make sure that you're being realistic about the timeline. And then I will say, once you've got the mind right, food is more important than extra cardio, especially. So the food has to be in the right place, the adjustments have to be made. And again, a lot of times that does take talking to someone about it. I can tell you that the first time I'll ask for a sample day of food. The first time I look at that, I can usually pick out like 10 things that we could try switching that can maximize your energy, that are going to shift your body in the direction you're hoping for. It's very easy for me to identify them. And so when you're in this bubble of your own meal planning and your own food and eating style, you don't see those things. And sometimes it's just that your mind is you're not educated in that way, and that's fine.
Or it was like a little thing and you didn't think of it, right?
Absolutely. Small tweaks that you can make. So talking to someone and critically looking at what the food choices actually are. And then don't kill yourself with cardio, because that's going to make it worse. And a lot of times that makes you hungrier and it's a snowball effect. It's not going to be good for your dancing and then for casting, so all those things. So yeah, I would say think about other ways of cross-training besides cardio.
Which would be what? Cross-training, like
a lot of times
Pilates, yoga,
Pilates,
gyro.
Yes, exactly. All of those I think are better options for dancers than straight up elliptical or treadmill. I have to be on here for 2 hours because it's going to burn X amount of calories.
I think you have to sort of look at the whole and see everything that's going on to make wise choices. Because I worry, and I hear this a lot in here. Dancers trying to augment their training when they're training 6 hours a day, and I'm still missing this and I'm still missing this because they have to be crazy technicians compared to when I was dancing. And then do you really want to add on another hour or half an hour, and can you place it? Can it be part of your warm-up? Can it be part of this? Can it be part of that? And so that we allow the body to rest.
Yes.
Bodies need
rest
to rest.
is essential. You have to have at least one off day. Rest day.
Yeah.
You can still go for a walk, get in nature, do something that's good for your spirit and your mind, but you need to have that time to let your body chill out.
Yeah, and recuperate and recover and build one more time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Oh my God, we have more questions. Great questions. Maybe some of these we already touched on.
Yeah, some could be already, somewhat
This one, I think, the question about how to fight the battle of being a perfectionist, of thinking that all you do in terms of body, positive mindset, and healthy diet is not working.
I think that this needs an outside perspective, and possibly needs again, reconsideration of what your goals are and if they are realistic for you, which again, probably would require an outsider to say, look, you're not going to lose 30 pounds because that's not going to work on your frame, or it's just not where your body is meant to be, and to fight with yourself for months and months is not going to serve you in the long run. So I think that having an outside perspective on this one is going to be essential. And then the perfectionist piece, I always, with dancers, you have to come back to even our most ethereal idols, like the dancers who you see on stage and you say, there's nothing, she's never done anything wrong. She comes off stage and says, this, and the other thing,
They're worse.
Right,
They're worse.
So it's never going to be perfect, and accepting that and knowing that the focus should be on growth. As an artist, as a technician, like, how can I improve today? How can I be happy with the work that I'm doing?
Yeah.
So I think that that's one of the best ways to kind of combat the perfectionist mindset.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have more to add to that, because I know that you surely face.
I was an extreme perfectionist.
Yeah.
I still am. And I see it in almost every single dancer.
Yeah.
There are some dancers that are more than others. I have spent a lot of time thinking about it. Where is it environmental? Are you born with it? Are you, is it your drive? Is it this? Is it that? Me and myself, I have come to be softer on myself over the years.
Yeah.
But that only has taken many years of work on it and experience.
It certainly
And
takes work.
It's not, it's not something that came easily or comes easily. And I think that I don't think you get over being a perfectionist. I think you just learn to handle it. It's like when you have a death, right? Like when you have a death in your family, you don't ever get over losing your mom. You just learn to be in that space of it and to be able to handle it a little bit more. That's my perspective on it. And particularly with the soloists and principals that I come across, they have just as many body issues as everyone else. Everyone comes in favoring one foot, or I don't like my shoulder line, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. It's like, I don't like this. Guaranteed, every single one of them. But they tend to be, when they move into the realm of the sort of like a spiritual experience when you work with these people, because they really bring the spirit, they really bring the artistry, and they kind of let that go a little bit. So again, I think that comes back to experience and
Definitely
being a little, like, learning to be in a space of a little bit softer on yourself, one bit at a time.
It's an ongoing journey. Like I've been doing over the summer, I had all of these healthy dancer features where principals and soloists and, Corps de Ballet, every level of companies, from New York City Ballet and Pennsylvania Ballet and Miami City Ballet, talking about how they manage the whole body piece of dance, and how they cope and how they feel about themselves, and like how they work with that. And every single one of them has had, some struggles, or at least it's something on their mind. Like, how do they show up confidently when maybe they don't feel great that day, when they look in the mirror, So it's definitely an ongoing process for everyone.
Yeah. But certainly if you're in the right mindset, if you're inputting the right food into your body and the lifestyle, you're getting enough sleep, and you're doing what you need to wind down at the end of the day and not looking at your screen. Guys, don't look at your screens before bed. Sorry, I have small children, and that's like a thing in our world,
I say that too, for sure.
And like the full of your life is a conduit for as much positivity as we can allow. That's certainly going to help everything for sure. Yeah. All right. It looks like this is Lauren. It says, "Hi, looking forward to guys." Oh yeah. My question: how do you choose the right outfits for your body type and form of dance for a shoot? Oh, okay, so that comes back to a little bit. These are types of questions that we either answer via questionnaires and back and forth with my staff, or if I have a consultation with you. We have a leotard guide that's somewhere on our blog, I think. But again, contact us if you're looking for that information. But it really has to do with proportion, and like de-accentuating the areas of your body that we don't want to feature and accentuating the areas of your body that we do want to feature. And most dancers actually really, I mean, we touched on this a little bit, but like they don't really see themselves.
Oh, no.
Like, I'm so surprised at the volume of dancers that come in with like 50 leotards or whatever, and again, sorry, I'm blunt, but like halfway through, I'm like, no. Do you see how this does that? Oh, and they basically throw out half their leotard wardrobe because they're super cute, but they don't look good on you.
Right.
So I think, general guidelines of if you've got wide shoulders, then straps that hit above your hip line are effective. If you've got wider hips, like I do, cap sleeves or long sleeves are good. If you've got big boobs, don't wear a pinch, guys. Pinches and details in across the bust are not particularly good for hiding them when we want to hide them. What else that are quick fixes? Any of the leotards, there's a ton out, like halters or anything, boat necks, anything that comes up high. You have to have crazy long legs to wear, and I mean really long legs to wear them well in a photo shoot, because the length of material is about as long as one of your legs are. So it's like the perspective shifts. Yeah. So if you're shooting more contemporary looking shot, you want more contemporary leotards. They tend to play in those ones, but then we sometimes have to alter the shape to accommodate the length of leotard to make the proportions work. So yeah, it's like tricks.
Yeah.
Tricks. So you just have to play and try to be able to like really see what your body looks like. One trick I do mention is that if you take a body selfie and you hold your camera, phones are wide angle lenses, you guys. So if you hold your phone up here and take the selfie, it distorts you. And much like down there, they're really wide angles. So if you hold it at hip level, you can get an accurate read on what your body actually looks like, ratio of shoulders or rib cage to your hips, and see what all your leotards actually look like on you. Are they making you look short? Are they making you look tall? Are they making you look wider in this area or wider in that area? Then that should help a little bit. Awesome. Why do you not have a channel or DVD on how you work, how to work, I'm not sure, which incorporates gems like the dancer to photographer relationships? I'm not clear on what that question is, but more like that may come back to like support. I think that anybody that's trying to have a professional career that is really a career-based job, that is a photographer, that is a coach, that is an artist of any kind. We all have support systems. I have business coaches, right? Right? I can't do without my business coaches. I have a support network at home. I have an au pair that helps me with the kids constantly. We all have support networks. So the things, if we were to list the things that we would think that, or I would think that are really important for a dancer, it's going to be different for every dancer, right? What do you need in terms of support? I would say having really good marketing materials comes back to your thing about photographer relationships. Absolutely. Again, that's one of the things that we talk about in the SMP program. So access to really good, high quality content is important. I think having a support structure that's outside of your family is really important, because sometimes we tune out our parents, sometimes we tune out our sisters and brothers or our friends at dance. So having outside perspective is really helpful. I think you can't do wrong at all with a coach like Jess, at all. I think it's almost imperative. But again, the difference between, there's 10,000 of you guys trying for 100 jobs. What makes the difference? I can't come back to this strongly enough. It's up in here. So a sports psychologist, all Olympic athletes use. Why are dancers not all doing this? It just seems so dumb to me. Nutritionists, absolutely. I think physical therapists are integral and key. People to keep on top of your body for wellness and longevity All those kinds of things
Yeah,
would be top
sure.
of my list.
Yeah, you need a team of people. You know, as much as you can get around you to support you. And if it means working with, you know, one for a while and then, okay, I have to shift my focus now in terms of like, you know, spreading out your resources, that's fine.
Like seriously, absolutely. I have 3 business coaches
Yeah.
that I like depending on what's going on, that I need advice on this, I need
Right.
advice on this, I need advice on this. I haven't talked to that particular person for 3 years, but it's time for that again. And
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of times these people who, you know, like for me, you can reach out to me, we can go back and forth via email or have a quick chat and see if I'm the right person for you to work with right now. So like reach out to those people who you think could be the ones you need, see what feels intuitively like the right focus right now, and definitely go in that direction.
Definitely. I think definitely intuitively go with what feels good, not
Right.
just who you were referred to. So even we have a referral list on our blog as well, 2-3 names in a bunch of different categories, but don't stick to that. Go outside, do your Google searches, guys, for sure. And talk to people so you'll know who the right person is. It's like picking a school. You kind of know.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
then
you
know
feel
it's-
it, I
yeah.
think, and you kind of have to follow that. And then too, it can change, and that's fine.
Yeah, awesome. What makes pro dancers not place a priority on a portfolio like a model? Oh my God, if they would, holy crap. I mean, so here's
really
the thing,
should.
you guys. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. You guys all just spent $100,000, $200,000 to become a dancer. And then we oftentimes think that getting into the company is the gold star of reach, and you realize that you can't live off of $400 or $500 a day, or a week rather. And how are you going to, you know, live at that point? And I think that the emphasis on building up your portfolio and working on that, I think that it gets a bad rap. I think that a lot of people see a lot of inauthentic stuff on Instagram, and a lot of and that makes them feel uncomfortable, and it makes them not want to go there and do it. I also think that dancers are not business savvy.
Yeah.
They are not taught anything about business and marketing and the other side of what it takes to be a dancer. And you all know the ones that have it because you all follow them, right? They may not be the best dancers in the world. They might be, right?
Yeah.
But they're the ones that are getting gigs, and they're the ones that are moving their careers forward. And it's often perceived as a necessary evil. I think there's absolutely, that's what the S&P program is about.
Yeah.
That there's absolutely a way to do it authentically and with value. For the world, I think that it's hard and it takes time, and it takes learning. Again, why we're trying to deal with that with the program, but it takes time, and this is the thing. So that I think that a lot of pro dancers don't take their off hours for working on themselves and working on themselves as a business, right? They go home and they maybe go on the treadmill, or they eat their salads, and then they hang out and they do their regular life stuff, not as much thinking about the business side of things. I think in other industries, like the modeling industries, where you have to be very self-reliant, it's not like you get signed on with an agency these days and they help you get jobs. It's like 50% through Instagram for models now. I could be mistaken on that, but it's pretty large. Yeah. So as it is in the dance world just hasn't caught up with it. Yeah, we're trying. I'm trying. Yes. Come on now. I mean, here's the thing. We don't live in Russia, where it's government sponsored and funded, and you make a nice life and you don't have to do too much else. Yeah, we don't live in that environment. Do I want the business side of things to take up your entire day? No. Do we want you to focus on your rehearsals and being in the studio when you're in the studio? Absolutely. I don't ever want it to be the other way, but we live in an environment where you're either playing the game or you're not playing the game. So.
And it's only going more in that direction.
And it's only more and more. So if we can all play the game in a really authentic and real way, I think we all win. I think if we do it inauthentically and we take time away from our art and the true training, then that's when it's a problem.
Yeah.
So we have to find that balance. And I just don't think people are really, people are aware of it and they talk about it more on the negative front, but there's not a lot of conversation on the positive front. I promise I will put that out there for you. I promise. I'm working on it. Thanks so much for watching today, you guys. I hope you got a lot out of this. And I think my guys are going to post a version of this on our IGTV and then probably also on our YouTube channel. And I know it'll probably live in Jess's Facebook group. Yeah. So you can access all of this information from anywhere. But please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you need support. That's what we're here for.